Well, would you look at that? Another studio tied directly to Sweet Baby Inc. has gone under and let go of all of their employees. But they don't want to get that image out there that they're closing up shop because they don't want to give anyone the win that called this from a mile away, even though at the end of the day, that's exactly what this is. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And Abubakar Salim's company, Surgent Studios, the company behind Tales of Kenzera Zao, you know, the game where Abubakar Salim was going on saying how it's selling just fine, there are no problems. It's just the negativity in the community that's trying to hold us down, and there's just awful people in the game community, and if people just all hold hands and hug and sing Kumbaya and buy our game, we'll make even more money, but we're not losing, and it's totally fine. Believe me. Yeah, that same company just let everyone go and put them on an indefinite hiatus. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article breaking down Tales of Kenzera Zao and how the company behind it, Surgent Studios, is closing down and looks like those doors will never open again. Surgent Studios, the developer behind Tales of Kenzera Zao, has announced that its entire games division is being put out on hiatus after previously claiming that the game's sales were going just fine. According to Abubakar Salim, it was just the negativity in the community that was the problem, not people not buying the game. In reality, though, the writing was on the wall from Jump Street. The studio struggled with poor sales, weak reception, and now the layoffs of the entire development team. Despite Abubakar Salim's attempts at gaslighting the entire game community by framing criticism of the game as harassment, the facts paint a much different picture. Tales of Kenzera Zao just wasn't a game that anybody wanted to play. And here's the thing about it. The game itself was like very average, mediocre to above mediocre, but not a game that you jump over someone to get to playing. It was a very generic side-scrolling game where they're a dime a dozen this day and age. Not to say that the game was absolute crap because of Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement with it. No, it was a generic game, which is the problem with all these games that come out of these DEI companies. It's they forget about the main focus behind the game itself. Making a good quality game. Making something that gamers want to play. Not self-insertion and talking about your own culture and getting mad at gamers that don't care about it and calling them the bad guys or insinuating that they're bigots or anything of that sort because your game just isn't worth playing at the end of the day. Salim is the current CEO of Surgent Studios and the lead developer of Tales of Kenzera Zao. He tried to shield the game's initial poor performance by releasing videos and statements on his Twitter complaining about the so-called harassment campaign against his studio. Where have we heard that one before?
Us from all of these wonderful games, or perhaps you're familiar with the nearly year-long hate campaign that has been waged against us as a team. Unfortunately, today I'm here to talk about that in a talk I'm going to call What Happens When You Get Harassed? A Sweet Baby Story.
But here's the thing, when you look at the facts on the table, this narrative quickly falls apart. It's not about our harassment campaign or evil gamers trying to ruin your life because you decided to make a game. It's because your game did not appeal to them. And it's not their fault for not buying the game. Stop blaming the gamer. Abubakar Salim said on Twitter before, "There is no proof of harassment. I don't see it. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. People around you are grappling with discrimination and harassment routinely. It's there if you want to see it. We don't glorify it. We just live with it and do what we can to fight against it when the opportunities arise." Which is noble in theory when you say it like that. It's like, yeah, we rise above the criticism and harassment, as he puts it here, and we're better than the gamers trying to hold us down. But the reality is, there was no harassment. There was no harassment campaign. There were no evil gamers. Sure, you get the one-off saying, yeah, you suck because of XYZ, but they don't speak for the vast majority of people out there. And that's the problem. These game companies and CEOs are trying to pin the blame on one or two social rejects, saying like an awful thing about an individual and saying, yeah, this is the person that speaks for everyone out there, and this is why the gamers aren't buying our game, is because everyone's like that one person. And it's like, you can't do that.
There's always been someone who's made me feel like I didn't deserve the opportunity I got. From Assassin's Creed to Raised by Wolves, I've had to ignore people saying that it wasn't the work that got me the opportunities. No, it was simply because I'm black.
From what I've witnessed from afar, Abubakar Salim strikes me as someone who constantly falls back on his skin color, oppression, blaming the community for harassment instead of proactively taking account for his game that's just frankly not what gamers wanted to play. Pair that with how he went to school for drama classes, and that he's even an actor in House of Dragon, his constant pleas for sympathy on camera strike me as quite disingenuous. I do not trust him and what he says. He constantly tugs at your heartstrings in an effort for you to feel bad for him, as if sympathy for him alone will sell his games and carry his studio. And that's just not how business works.
It started with my dad, right? He got me into them. He understood, that games are an art form. It's a great space to enjoy and escape from the reality of the world. And he passed away a while back, and I'll tell you what, I'm still figuring it out. But 4 years ago, I decided that I needed to try and process my grief in a way that felt true to me and him. So I took the biggest risks of my life, and threw everything that I had in making a game, a piece of art that honored him, an ode to the people we have loved and lost. So the reason I'm here tonight is because with the love and support of a lot of people here, I'm going to take another big risk, and I'm going to show you what we've been building. I'm going to offer you this game, a game from my old man. I hope you like it.
And I know, me pointing that out right here feels obvious, but also comes across as cold and harsh. But the reality is the game industry is not all rainbows and butterflies and happiness and everyone just opening up their wallets and throwing money at every game that comes out. People have to pick and choose. There's an infinite amount of games seemingly these days coming out, and a finite amount of cash that people have. So people will purchase the games that appeal directly to them and will try to have the enjoyment they can with those games. But you can't just expect every gamer to buy your game because it's culturally appropriate to whatever appeals to you specifically. It doesn't make any sense. And for those who forget, Abubakar Salim's the same guy that was listed on Sweet Baby Inc.'s overseas company called Bebe Sucre. And while he did leave as a director prior to his game coming out, it does prove that he had connections directly with Sweet Baby Inc. and Kim Belair and David Bedard, and worked with them at one point on games. Sweet Baby Inc.'s presence was obvious in Tales of Kenzera Zao. The game's development was praised by them in January, with Sweet Baby Inc. calling it a poignant story, heavily inspired by Bantu mythology. And thank you to John Trent from That Park Place for digging up this screenshot, because it is long gone on their website, and I had personally totally forgot about it. Abubakar Salim continued to gaslight fans, saying the game isn't selling well. Also false. I've addressed this on an AMA Reddit. The numbers some are circulating are a fraction of our actual playership, and they're being shared in bad faith by people who are wanting to provide proof that their harassment campaign has been successful in punishing us for daring to take up space. That's not how it works. Gamers want new experiences. We want new games. We don't want them to be fake or injected with DEI or putting people in places they shouldn't be and giving them reigns that they shouldn't have, giving us stories that aren't even as good as what they used to be because DEI forced the story and narrative to go down a certain route. That's what's concerning a lot of the players out there. It's not we have this harassment campaign against anything that's new. That's not what it's just like if you're starting a new YouTube channel and you get a negative comment from someone. You're not just going to be like, oh my God, the entire community of people on social media are just awful because this one comment I got here. It's like, you can't do that. You're gonna get criticism. Criticism is not harassment. The game peaked at a total of 287 players. Ironically, right around the same amount of people that have peaked for Unknown 9 Awakening on its second day, which should tell you something about these games that are coming out of these culturally diverse and narrative storytelling organizations that always seem to not make a quality game experience, but yet use the angle of, if you don't buy it, you're a racist bigot and you're a harasser because you don't open your wallet for them. That doesn't work. That's extortion. That's making up stories and trying to make people feel bad for themselves and turning it into a pity purchase, where gamers might open their wallet and do it for one company or another, but they can't do it over and over again. It doesn't work like that. It's not sustainable. Surgent Studios on Twitter said, "Help us bring our vision to life," and they link to Surgent Studios' contact. They say, "We've decided to put the work of Surgent Games Division on hiatus while we secure funding for our next project. In the meantime, we've unfortunately had to put our team on notice for redundancy." So right here, this is panhandling for the community, hoping that there's some sort of angel investor out there that sees this sad dying company that's desperately in need to raise their ESG scores and will give them money to create a game, when the last game they made was basically a failure. It didn't really sell very well. It didn't make money. Overall, it lost them quite a bit of money from the looks of it, and they're looking to perpetuate that madness by doubling down on it when they couldn't prove it the first time around. They continue in the message saying, "Our team has created a prototype for a bold new project. It's darker, edgier, and more visceral than our first game, but it retains all Zhao's high-octane combat and cultural depth. And we're looking for a partner." Notice how they throw that in there at the end, a cultural depth. Almost like, hey, any partners out there need to inject some DEI in their organization or put that in their portfolio, because we'll happily take your money and we'll be that company for you. Because here's the thing, if they actually did create some sort of prototype build for a new game and they're so excited about it and they feel like it's actually justified, necessary, and gamers are going to crawl over each other to get to it, then why not bring it to Kickstarter or another type of start engine or a funding campaign and show it to the gamers and tell them this is what you have and this is why you need to bring it to life. And the fact is, they know that gamers don't care about this kind of stuff. Gamers are not their customer. Investors are. Abubakar Salim's attempt to deflect blame onto the so-called harassment campaigns may have worked initially, but as always, the numbers don't lie. Tales of Kenzera Zhao was a commercial flop, and no amount of gaslighting is going to change that. With the entire games division of Surgent Studios now on hiatus, it's clear that focusing on ideological talking points rather than quality gameplay is a recipe for disaster. Gamers weren't buying the game because it simply wasn't good, and Salim's narrative of victimhood has crumbled along with the studio's future expectations. And sure, again, blame the gamers all you want and hope you'll get that ESG funding from an angel investor that thinks your company could use the money and put this kind of propaganda out there again, doubling down, when no one bought it the first time around. So ultimately, I'm looking at this as, no, this studio is done. Stick a fork in them. They had their chance and they failed, which is exactly how it should work. If these companies have these great products and great games that do need to get out there and there's a reason and a passion and a storyline behind it that just has to be seen, it will find a way. It always does. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link it in the description below. If you appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
No, it was simply because I'm black. And look, I've turned the other cheek and just kept doing my thing. Even when people were saying, oh, the only reason why he's been cast as father in Raised by Wolves is because the character's a service model. And look, some of these comments, a few of them you can just brush off. But when it's a constant barrage of them, it's exhausting. So when I look at Zhao, it's reached this fever pitch. Smash it.